we go live to scenes outside the home of Ahmed Kathrada. We understand that the proceedings are about to begin. What was expected to happen around this time was that the body would leave the home and head for the mosque. So we'll keep you in tune there, we'll keep you in sync with what's going on outside the home of Ahmed Kathrada. As we can see, Premier David Makura and glimpses of Trevor Manuel there as well, Charles Ngakula, pallbearers there, Mandla Mandela as well, many dignitaries there carrying the body of Ahmed Kathrada out of his flat in Killarney in Johannesburg to his final resting place. We understand that the body will be taken, Ahmed Kathrada's body will be taken to a mosque in Houghton, where the official funeral service will be held, and then to the West Park Cemetery, where the public, we understand, will be allowed to attend the final farewell there. The service at the mosque open only to close family and friends, but the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation telling us that the public will be allowed to come to the West Park Cemetery later on this morning after 11 o'clock. You're watching Morning News Today live on ENCA. Right now we're seeing the body of Ahmed Kathrada draped in the ANC flag being carried out of his home in Johannesburg. The country, the world saying goodbye to a struggle icon, Ahmed Kathrada. He passed away early yesterday morning after undergoing surgery to remove a blood clot to the brain and suffering double pneumonia after that. And he'd been in a stable condition for weeks, his condition deteriorating since Sunday, and Uncle Kathy, as he was known to many, taking his last breath in the early hours of yesterday morning. I'm joined now by Angelo Fick, somebody who has many memories of Uncle Kathy, somebody he looked up to as well. And Angelo, I think today the reality of it all comes home for South Africans. Seeing the body there of Ahmed Kathrada, it brings a certain finality to everything for us.
Yes, and this is one of those moments where grief is both personal as well as communal. So in these rituals we see people carrying, men carrying the bier, which contains the coffin, which contains the body, from one space to another. This is the space of the last night is spent inside a private home. It will then be taken to the masjid, or the mosque, and from there it will be taken to the cemetery. This is a very important moment for very many of the people carrying the remains of Ahmed Kathrada, because it allows them one last moment of service to him by that brief and very short distance that they will carry it. It's a moment in which there is communal engagement, so people are recognizing one another in a very particular way. It's a moment of grief, it's a moment of mourning, but it's also a moment of honor and respect for those attending this particular moment. And as you can tell, this is a very short distance, it is not the full distance that will be carried. And it relates to how in the tradition of Islam, the idea is for people to be able to participate in this, but also to get the process of mourning and the kind of procedures and rituals that will be followed going. So there will be specific nights throughout the next few months in which the deceased will be remembered and honored with prayers. But right now it is that first set of the ritual after the death, having the body will have been, washed and tended, and it is now going into the mosque from where it will depart for the cemetery. And very telling as well, Angela. I mean, we know according to traditional Muslim rites, he would have been buried before sunset yesterday. Special concessions being made for Uncle Kathy as well. Very thoughtful on the part of the family and his partner Barbara Hogan as well. Precisely because the belief system is to include rather than to exclude, it is to embrace, and often or in cases where exceptions are made, it has to do with making accommodations to allow as many people to be part of the process in which people wish to express their sense of loss or their sense of support for the immediate family. So while this is a particular sad moment for the family, and in some sense it's a sad moment for the country, it is also a moment to honour, and I think that's partly why the remains are draped in the ANC flag. And this will have been for many people a kind of remembrance of what had happened in the 1970s and 80s, and this is the kind of full burial for somebody who was a loyal member of the party until the very end.
And I think also very telling of Ahmed Kathrada himself, stating very clearly that he did not want a state funeral.
Well, also, the combination of state funeral and his Sunni Islamic beliefs would have been very, very, awkward to suture. The idea behind, I think, much of this is to combine both the honour and to mark the passing of a comrade, but also to honour and respect his wishes. And believers of the faith would have found it awkward if this had to go on for too long. Also, Kathrada was a very simple man, very ordinary figure, humble, and this particular, the Muslim rituals around funeral for Sunnis particularly tend to be very simple, very ordinary and not ostentatious. And I think a state funeral would have been, at this particular moment for this particular ritual, would have been a little too ostentatious and a little too over the top.
Traditionally, and just common knowledge being that women are not allowed inside the mosque, do we know whether that still stands? I mean, with all the special concessions being made now by the Kathrada family for this funeral, do we know exactly how this works inside the mosque?
So men traditionally carry the remains and women remain behind in Muslim funerals I've attended in my family at the home, and this is not a sort of out-and-out ban, but even in many mosques, particularly in the conservative Sunni mosques, you tend to have a separation of men and women. This is, again, no one is barred from the space of prayer and space of observing a certain kind of worship, but it's simply a separation of men and women. And what we'll see here today is inside the mosque, inside the masjid, there will be men carrying, as per tradition, but no woman will be barred from actually attending any of the proceedings at the cemetery. So it's not as if women who are not Muslim and are but it's simply a matter of marking the respect.
Well, I think there is a prayer that is underway.